The movie begins with Deuce Bigalow cleaning a public fish tank with no clothes on. Because of this, he gets fired. He tries explaining why he had to clean the tanks without his swimming trunks, but he still gets thrown out by security. Later, Deuce asks Allison out on a date, but she instantly rejects him. To make himself feel better, Deuce buys some sea snails and watches as Allison wets her shirt while trying to reach the snails at the bottom of the fish tank. Next, he heads to a resort where he sees a charismatic man, Antoine, flirt with a girl before entering their room. Deuce can only watch them with envy, then goes to one of the rooms to save a boy's goldfish that's been flushed in the toilet. Before he leaves, Deuce asks the boy's mom if she wants him to stay and hang out with them, but she turns him down. After that, he cleans a homemade pond and gets attacked by a mongrel koi before being saved by Antoine. Deuce asks Antoine for ice, and as he gets it for him, Deuce is astonished upon seeing Antoine's very expensive fish tank. He is also amazed to see that he has a Chinese tailbar lionfish, but is shocked when Antoine feeds it with an Australian rainbow fish. While Antoine goes to the bathroom, Deuce hears a woman's message from Antoine's answering machine, asking him to be her driver, and if the payment is still $3,500. Shocked, Deuce asks what he really does. And without beating around the bush, Antoine tells him he's a gigolo and that women pay him to give them pleasure. Later that day, Deuce goes home to his shabby apartment and fishes, telling them that their plan to move to the beach has been delayed. The next day, Antoine asks Deuce to check on his sick fish. After tending to the fish, Antoine asks him to take care of his fish and house since he'll be away on a business trip for 3 weeks. Before Antoine leaves, he reminds Deuce not to use his car and not to answer his phone. Deuce then tells him he understands, but when he accidentally knocks over Antoine's Hungarian crossbow, the man quickly catches and threatens Deuce with it, saying he'll get hurt if he messes up anything in his apartment. Antoine leaves. Later that day, Deuce accidentally plays an adult film on the television, and suddenly, a Girl Scout shows up to sell him cookies. When the girl sees the adult film, Deuce is forced to buy all of her cookies to keep her quiet. He then makes a grilled cheese sandwich in the toaster and hangs himself on Antoine's bar to do some upside-down sit-ups. He accidentally knocks off the stool so he can't get down. Then he notices that his sandwich is burning, so he scrambles to get down. He tries swinging and holding onto the aquarium, and while doing so, Antoine calls and threatens to kill him if he doesn't clean his apartment. While the fire spreads in the kitchen, Deuce's weight causes the aquarium to fall and break. He then puts out the fire and saves the fish in separate containers. Deuce calls his friend Neil, who installs fish tanks. He is shocked to learn that it will cost him $6,000 to restore everything. That night, Deuce answers the phone even though he's not supposed to, and a woman named Margaret mistakes him for Antione and asks him to come to her place. Using Antoine's car, Deuce goes to Margaret's house and wears a revealing outfit while he reads her a book. Deuce then puts on a rubber before hooking up with Margaret. They are disturbed by her aggressive dog, which forces its way inside the room. Margaret pays Deuce and orders him to go. She pays him $10. Using the money he's earned, Deuce goes to a bar to have a good time. However, he quickly spends all of it after ordering an expensive drink, forcing him to find a woman in need of service in the hopes of earning more. He then approaches a French woman, Claire, who initially finds him annoying, but eventually invites him to leave the bar with her. Deuce takes Claire to Antoine's place, where the woman immediately makes a move on him. But when Deuce tells her to pay him $10 first before they begin, Claire tells him that he's the one who should pay her. And not just $10, but $500. Turns out Claire is also a hooker, and she thought Deuce was a client. The two engage in a physical fight as they argue about their payment. Claire then notices Antoine's picture on the counter and asks Deuce why he has it, so Deuce admits to her that they're at Antoine's place. Scared, Claire asks Deuce not to tell Antoine about her before quickly leaving. After learning about the mess in Antoine's place, Claire's friend TJ, who considers himself a male madam, visits Deuce. Deuce assures him that he plans to fix everything before Antoine returns, but TJ suggests he work as a gigolo to earn money quickly. Trusting TJ, Deuce gets a makeover and is now ready to be a man-ho. Before TJ leaves him at the house of his first official client, TJ reminds him never to fall in love. Deuce enters the house, and upstairs he finds an overweight woman with a manly voice called Fluisa. Deuce quickly becomes uncomfortable, so he lies about being into men to avoid hooking up with her. So instead, the two play a game called Cakes and Pies. The next day, TJ tells Deuce how impressed he is with him for pleasuring Fluisa and pays him. However, Deuce isn't sure sure if he can continue being a gigolo and decides to quit. In turn, TJ threatens to tell Antoine what he's done to his place. Deuce stops TJ, asking him to give him time to think. The two men are unaware that they're being watched by Detective Fowler. Deuce then goes to the restroom and finds his father, Bob, there. Bob is a restroom cleaner in that restaurant, and when Deuce asks him if it's wrong to accept money from women for pleasure, he tells his son that women are looking for something more than just sleeping together. He explains that women want romance, and to Deuce's surprise, Bob explains that when he met Deuce's mother in a dance club, he refused to pay her for sleeping together, no matter what. They got married after that, so now Bob advises Deuce to take more risks, just like he did. Deuce goes to the house of his next client, Tina, who is an extremely tall woman. The two go on a date, and as Tina shares with Deuce about her pituitary gland procedure at UCLA Medical Center, some people around them won't stop teasing Tina. They then decide to just return to her house, where Tina scoops Deuce up like a baby and throws him on the bed to sleep with him. Once again, Deuce feels uncomfortable sleeping with his client, so he proposes they do something else, and he ends up massaging her foot, which she absolutely enjoys. As Deuce leaves Tina's house, Fowler confronts him about Antoine and accuses him of being a gigolo too. Deuce explains that he isn't one, but the detective doesn't believe him. He threatens Deuce, saying that he can easily throw him in jail, before telling him to let Antoine know that he's coming for him. The next day, Deuce picks up his next client, Ruth, who has Tourette's syndrome, a disorder that makes her swear involuntarily. Because of Ruth's excessive cursing, Deuce takes her to a baseball match where she's able to swear freely without having to think about what other people will say. Again, Deuce impresses TJ and he sets him up on another date, saying the woman's friends want her to have a good time. Deuce is surprised that his date, Kate, isn't weird like his previous clients. They are supposed to eat in a sushi restaurant, but when Deuce sees that the chef is about to slice a dog-faced pufferfish, he freaks out and Kate politely asks the chef to stop. They then leave and go to an amusement park where they release the fish in the water. After a wonderful evening together, Deuce takes Kate home. As he's about to get in the car, Fowler confronts him again. The detective is disgusted that Deuce is working as a gigolo, but Deuce assures him that Kate is just his date. Of course, Fowler doesn't believe him, and he instructs him to bring Antoine's black book, which contains his client's information, within 3 days. The following day, Deuce tells TJ he likes Kate, but TJ says he should just focus on his work since Antoine is returning soon. Deuce then mentions Fowler, but when TJ starts getting worried, Deuce promises that he's never said anything about him to the detective. Later on, Deuce goes out on a date with his next client, Carol, who has narcolepsy, which causes her to fall asleep at random times. After bowling, they eat in a restaurant where they tie Carol's hair to a pole so she won't drown in her soup if she falls asleep. Then, Deuce finally takes her home. Carol tells him she had fun, and when Deuce asks if she'll be okay alone, Carol says she will be. Deuce then hears Carol falling from the stairs, but he fails to open the door since the woman is probably blocking it. Deuce begins the repairs on Antoine's place. He also keeps in touch with his previous clients, taking them on dates and even helping Fluiza lose weight. All the while, the women still pay him for his service. Deuce earns more, and he continues seeing Kate and gives her an aquarium. She even introduces him to her blind roommate, Birgitta, before going on another date at the beach. Deuce then remembers that it's his father's birthday, and after Kate insists they visit him, Deuce introduces them to each other at the restaurant where he works. He can't help but feel uncomfortable as Bob and Kate talk, especially with Bob bringing up his mother's profession. Kate doesn't understand what Bob means, and when she gives him a raspberry bibinka, Bob is called by his boss to clean the toilet. Once Bob is gone, Deuce explains to Kate that his father is the men's room attendant, but Kate doesn't really mind. She then goes to the bathroom to make Bob blow the candle on his cake, and the old man appreciates the gesture. When he takes her home, Kate tells Deuce she's had a great time, but Deuce finds that hard to believe. To prove that she's telling the truth, Kate invites Deuce to her house to sleep with him. After undressing, Kate tries to confess something to Deuce, but he won't let her talk. Deuce and Kate start making out, but Kate gets humiliated when Deuce accidentally pulls out her prosthetic leg. Embarrassed, Kate goes to the bathroom and asks Deuce to leave, but Deuce insists on staying and assures Kate his feelings for her remain the same. Deuce wakes up happy in the morning after sleeping with Kate. He then talks to Kate's friends, who paid TJ to set up their friend with a gigolo. The women aren't happy that Kate is dating a gigolo, but Deuce tells them that he quit and that he and Kate really like each other. Deuce returns the women's money, and as he leaves, one of them warns him to stay away from Kate. Outside, Fowler shows up unannounced and demands to have Antoine's black book, but Deuce says he couldn't find it. He then asks Deuce if he knows TJ, but Deuce says he doesn't. Later on, Deuce informs TJ that he's quitting being a gigolo and that he'll find another job to pay for Antoine's apartment. When Deuce goes to Kate's place, he is devastated to learn that she already knows the truth that he was paid to go out with her. Deuce tries to explain himself, but Kate won't hear him out and tells him to leave. He then goes back to cleaning fish tanks and unclogging toilet bowls while Kate remains upset. When Deuce can't take it any longer, he goes to his father for advice. Despite working hard, Deuce is still $1,500 short. In his desperation, he accepts another gig as a gigolo and meets up with a beautiful woman named Elaine. Elaine immediately tries to hook up with Deuce, but he tells her that he can't sleep with her since he's in love with someone else. Elaine says her man used to be like him, so Deuce tells her that things will eventually be okay. Deuce is about to leave when Elaine tells him to stay since she's already paid for his services. He then dances for her in his underwear while making sure she doesn't touch him. After dressing up, Deuce finds Elaine's wallet containing her ID and a picture with Fowler, revealing that she's his wife. Deuce doesn't say anything about it, and when he leaves with Elaine, they run into Kate in the lobby. Kate slaps Deuce, saying that she's there to see for herself if he really is a gigolo, before walking away. Deuce tries chasing after her, but he bumps into a luggage cart. Defeated, Deuce returns to Antoine's place that night, where he finds the aquarium he gave Kate outside the door. Fowler finds Deuce the next day, and when he realizes that Elaine's the reason why Fowler is after Antoine, the two get into a physical altercation. The detective is determined to put Antoine and Deuce behind bars, but Deuce tells him that won't save his marriage. Fowler believes that Elaine cheated on him because of his small manhood, but Deuce assures him that's not the case. He then advises Fowler to make Elaine feel good about herself by saying something nice to her, and eventually teaches the detective to dance seductively for his wife. That night, Fowler thanks Deuce for helping him save his marriage, but he regretfully informs him that he needs to give TJ to the cops, or else they'll arrest him since they are desperate to nail someone. Instead of betraying TJ, Deuce turns himself in and faces a judge in court. The prosecution asks for the maximum term for each of the 5 counts of hustling, but Deuce's clients show up and testify for him, saying he never slept with them. The judge then asks Deuce if he's ever slept with the others, so Deuce admits that he slept with Kate, saying that he's in love with her. After proving that Kate didn't pay Deuce to sleep with her either, the judge dismisses Deuce's case. Deuce then goes to Kate's workplace, where a doctor gives him shots for a hair transplant after he pretends to be a patient. Deuce begs Kate to hear him out when she arrives, and he apologizes for lying to her. He says he was just scared that Kate would never like a fish tank cleaner like him, adding that the whole gigolo thing was a terrible mistake. Finally, Deuce reads the poem he's written for Kate to prove his love for her, and Kate finally accepts him back. Later on, Fowler, TJ, and all of Deuce's clients help fix Antoine's apartment and aquarium in a hurry. Tina even poses as an airport employee to stall Antoine while Deuce and the gang put back all the fish in the aquarium. But when Birgitta turns on the blender to make a margarita, she kills Antoine's lionfish. Deuce quickly buys a lionfish from Allison's store and manages to put it in the aquarium just in time for Antoine's return. Everyone hides as Deuce talks to Antoine. He is in a foul mood because of his encounter with Tina, so when he sees the blender on the counter and Deuce tells him it's a chocolate margarita, Antoine immediately drinks from it. Deuce can't wait to leave, but Antoine won't stop asking him questions about his apartment, especially about his fish. The aquarium breaks when Antoine playfully taps it. Angry, Antoine takes an axe from his weapons collection and attacks Deuce. Kate throws her prosthetic leg towards Deuce so he can defend himself. Antoine uses his other weapons on Deuce, but Deuce miraculously dodges them all. Finally, Antoine tries to shoot Deuce using his crossbow, but Fluisa blocks it and gets hit in the chest with an arrow. Luckily, the arrow only hits the roasted chicken hidden in Fluisa's chest. Fowler then arrests Antoine while Birgitta regains her sight after hooking up with TJ inside the closet. After some time, Bob becomes a full-time gigolo and earns a decent amount of money, while Ruth opens a school for girls with Tourette's. Carol takes a trip to France, while Fluisa gets extensive liposuction before changing her name to Naomi and becoming a model. Meanwhile, an incarcerated Antoine starts a relationship with Tina, and TJ gets his own sitcom. Lastly, Deuce marries the love of his life, Kate. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.